Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast, where today we're going over UFC Vegas 33, Hall versus Strickland, in all honesty, UFC Vegas 33. Who are we pushing? Because there's some interesting matchups in here. It's a lot of scrambling, a lot of fights falling off the card, and a lot of just decision making from the UFC, trying to figure out who they're pushing, who they're cutting, who to give next. It's very, they're trying to find like a direction with most of these matchups they put together. And again, just a really quick recap of last week. Another successful week. I mean, we went 5 of 6 with picks in that just landmine of a card last week. One hell of a card to watch. It was a super fun one to see. We did lose a lock with Kyler Phillips, even though it was a little controversial. I think it could have been a draw. I don't know what else he could have done to get a 10-8. Then at the other side, we also had a bet on Macy Barber, where there's not a chance in hell she lost. We benefited from poor judging. So one of them screwed all of our parlays. The other one helped all my dog picks. So we went 5 of 6. So, I mean, that's all you can do. They balance each other out. But again, we're just going to move on, take the victory, no matter how greasy it was, and just continue to push forward. So let's not waste any more of your time. I'm going to go straight into the first fight of the night. Let's see here. Very first fight of the night, we have Orion Koski, which is, I don't know, some people think it's the better, some people think it's the worst Koski brother. He's going up against the Fresh Prince here, Philip Rowe. We have Koski coming in at a minus 170 favorite. Come back on Philip Rowe at plus 135. We'll start with Orion. He's not, looking at his record, looking at the fight tape, he's not very good. He hits kind of hard. His striking's okay. His cardio is a little better than his brother's. It's okay. He can at least be there in the third round. He's a few third round finishes, I believe, as well. Yes, there he goes. Yeah, he has. His last 2 fights have both finished in the third round. Outside of that, he's supposed to have good wrestling. But I see him taken down multiple times on the regional scene. I've seen him taken down in his contender series fight. It just, for someone that credits themselves as a wrestler, he sure does get taken down a lot and pretty easily. He really just predicates himself on his striking and his power. He's kind of a short, stocky guy, so he just hits super, super hard. He does like to pressure you. That's where he feels most comfortable. He can't fight going backwards. And in regards to his striking itself, he doesn't hold anything back. He puts 100% into everything. There's no touching anyone up. It is just straight trying to knock you out or bust. Then you look on the flip side and you have Philip Rowe. I know he already has a UFC fight up against Gabe Green, and that was a pretty good fight. Rowe is decent striking too. It's actually not that it's the best striking, it's that he uses his reach so well. I mean, again, you don't see a lot of these guys actually use their reach advantage, and he's one that will poke that jab out there. I mean, at 80-inch reach, it's pretty significant. He's training over at Fusion with really good guys, just getting better. His takedown defense is a little questionable as well, but at the same breath, his jiu-jitsu is pretty sneaky good. So I think he just doesn't mind being on his back, in all honesty. You see him with like some guillotine chokes and rear naked chokes, but you also see him getting some knockouts. So he's pretty well-rounded. I actually like Philip Rowe quite a bit. In regards to the fight itself, I guess the only thing is Philip is a little hittable based on what I saw, and Orion's not really someone that I want to continually get hit by. So that kind of keeps me away from the over-under. It's set at 1.5. We have a minus 182 with the over 1.5. Under 1.5 is plus 147. I kind of want to stay away from totals and just kind of, instead of trying to get a little wild with those, I'd rather just do dog or pass in this situation, man. I get why Orion's the favorite. I get why Rowe is the dog. Do I think it should be flipped? Absolutely. Are either one of these guys ever going to be champ or top level UFC? No. So at that juncture, I'll just take the reach and the jiu-jitsu and the decent striking, even though he's pretty hittable. And I'll go dog or pass. And I honestly might even place a bet on Rowe. If he stays at this value or gets better, if this starts getting down to like plus 115, plus 110, it's not worth it. But right now at plus 135, it's not terrible value in all honesty. So pick is Rowe, bet is Rowe. Next fight gets interesting, man. You got Trevin Jones going up against Ronnie Lawrence. Neither one of these guys were supposed to fight each other. They just all kind of stepped in. And I know Ronnie is really, really last minute here. And he's still the favorite, minus 155 on Ronnie Lawrence, plus 125 on Trevin Jones. Over 2.5 is minus 110. Under 2.5 is minus 120. Buyer beware with Trevin Jones, man. He's good. He's not that bad. He is pretty hittable. When you watch his fights, he's not hard to find there on the feet. But he is pretty durable. I mean, you see him rocked often, but he doesn't go away. I mean, obviously his UFC run has been one of legend. We have him going up against Timur Valiev. I know it says no contest because, Jones was smoking a little bit beforehand, but he took the fight on short notice. He let the UFC know he might pop. I mean, you're going to jump on the opportunity no matter what. And he was getting rocked. He was getting destroyed. He looked like a short notice replacement. And then he came back, man. He has some power in his hands. Then the next fight, it was the same thing. Mario Batista's no slouch. He's pretty good. Came out there, was doing big things. And then all of a sudden, man, Trevin Jones came back out in the second round, caught him with one clean uppercut, and just closed the show. I mean, it's the only concern I have with this approach is that Jones is really good on the ground. He is a BJJ black belt. So you look at him and you think he has the death touch, as they would say over at the Dog or Pass podcast with Cody and Paul Shaughnessy. So, I mean, you look at his record though, you see the black belt with the chokes and the submission wins. Obviously the power with the knockouts his last two fights, but outside of that, split decision. He has a knockout decision. He's a point fighter. He just happens to come out there. If he can't tap you out, there are instances where he can catch you clean, but that's anybody. I don't think he has the quote unquote death touch. And you know what this kind of reminds me of is Chaos Williams. He came in, knocked out his first two opponents, and he looked like if he touches you, you go down. But he has a history of going to decisions, and his last two fights have gone to decision. And I think this is where the buck ends for Trevin Jones, because Ronnie Lawrence is damn good. And in all honesty, Dana White himself is pushing this kid. So he wants to set him up as someone that can take out someone with extreme power. They wouldn't put Ronnie Lawrence in the situation if they thought he was going to lose. Ronnie also is a striker. He's also a little hittable too. So I did take a look at the under, but it's not enough value here. I mean, Ronnie Lawrence is minus 150 as it is. And that's a good line for him, even though he's coming in short notice. Even though he is predominantly a striker, his wrestling is nice, man. It's all about timing for him. It kind of reminds me of like a GSP, where he didn't grow up a wrestler. He's not pushing you up against the cage and then all of a sudden lifting and returning. He's really just, he's striking with you. And then in the middle of one of your strikes, it's all about timing, man. As someone who wrestled themselves, like it's all, I'm not a big, strong, burly guy. Like that wasn't my approach. It's all about timing. And he's someone that seems to have found it, been able to, mixed martial arts wrestling compared to folk style wrestling or Greco, all of that. So it's different, man. It's a different game. And he has this MMA wrestling down to a science. And he kind of goes to a lot of decisions as well. I know Vince Cachero, he finished, but, the 2.5 would have hit the over. He decisioned Jose, decision people in the regional scene. And he has one loss, and it's to Steve Garcia, who is a UFC vet. So, I mean, he's kind of been through it. His jiu-jitsu is okay. I'm watching some of the tape. I mean, offensively, he'll go for stuff, but he's just an overall good prospect. He's not super old. I mean, he's 29, so he's about to hit his prime or in his prime. They want to push this kid, and they're just testing his chin, making sure everything he can pass the litmus test with Jones. And they're going to really push this kid to the moon. And in all honesty, he deserves it. He's really good. So the bet is Ronnie, and the pick is going to be Ronnie as well. Then that takes us to where the grease starts. We have Ashley Yoder going up at a minus 140 favorite against Jinyu Frey at plus 110. The over under, we're not even going to waste our time with it. Steam to like minus 400 or something crazy where there's absolutely no value. We'll start with Ashley. I mean, Yoder, she's a 500 fighter and she acts like it. In all honesty, she does look like it. I mean, she's fought people like Angela Hill twice. I know she's fought the Rhonda Marcos and Miranda Grangers, the Mackenzie Dern. She's kind of all over the place in regards to level of competition. Because, I mean, Angela Hill and Mackenzie Dern are no walk in the park. So those are like top 10 to top 5 girls. Rhonda Marcos, Liviana Souza are right in the middle, and Miranda Granger's at the bottom. So you kind of see how it works. I mean, if she's fighting someone very low level, she goes out there and wins. When she's fighting someone mid-level, she loses close ones, a lot of split decisions here. And then when she fights someone of high caliber, she loses and gets dominated. So it's a matter of where you put Jinyu Frey. I mean, Yoder's jiu-jitsu is okay. On the regional scene, she was tapping everyone out. She made it to the UFC and doesn't have any submissions, but it's there. She goes for it. The problem is she can't wrestle, so she can't get it down to the ground. She'll push you up against the fence. She'll try to muscle you, but she has zero muscle whatsoever. I've even seen her go for head and arms. I don't like that. Then she has a big reach advantage. She's a tall, lanky girl, but she can't really strike and she's very hittable. So she doesn't know how to use her reach. She wants to be a jiu-jitsu ace, but she can't wrestle. I don't really know what she does. That's why her fights get so many split decisions. You just see it up against the cage, and it's a very, very interesting time betting for Yoder or against Yoder. I prefer to just stay away. And then you have on the flip side, like we said, she loses the good competition and it's fishy in the middle and she'll win against the low level. Frey's middle of the pack. So this just has split decision written all over it. She's not the great. I know she utilized her wrestling in her last fight against Gloria to Paola. We'll get to her. But I think that was more or less a Gloria effect than it was Frey dominant wrestling. I would say Frey's pretty hittable. She is to an extent. I just think it's more of her volume, man. She doesn't throw. Like, she throws like 2 significant strikes per minute. Not even. It was like 1.5. Like, she just doesn't throw anything. So it's really hard to win a fight when, you're throwing 7 punches around. Like, that's not really going to win you the fight. So it's not that her stand-up is bad. It's okay. I mean, her stand-up is not bad. She just, I don't know, she's scared she's gonna tire or what happens. I have no idea. Her jiu-jitsu passes. It's not good. It's not bad. It's good enough to stay safe from Yoder's attempts. So you're really looking at Yoder's pressure compared to Frey's power. And Frey is honestly an atomweight. She's fought at atomweight before. So she's not going to knock Yoder out by any means. So you're just looking at hard shots that come seldomly against someone who's pressuring you, putting up against the fence. And it really depends on who the judge is. We could have ourselves another Corey versus TJ scenario with this fight. So the pick, I guess a pick is Yoder. But if I'm going to bet it in a split decision, it's going to be dog or pass. I know it's not a lot of value at plus 110, but there is a plus sign in front of it. So if it's 50-50, I'll always take the plus money. So pick is Yoder, bet is Frey, but stay the hell away. And then the next fight of the night, we have one that honestly could be fight of the night. We have Kai Kamaka at minus 120. This is interesting. Up against Danny Chavez at minus 110. Over 2.5 is minus 202. Under 2.5 is plus 162. We'll start with Kai. Honestly, I like him. He's kind of had a roller coaster of a career in the UFC. I mean, his first fight, he fought Tony Kelly, where he just absolutely dominated and then just gassed out and barely squeaked out a win. I know his next fight in the UFC was up against JSP. And JSP, he's just a weird one to discuss. I don't know if he's good. I don't know if he's bad. He's a little all over the place, but you shouldn't be coming out and getting knocked out easily by JSP. And the problem was he looked good again in the first and then gassed out. And then we have the TJ Brown decision, which it was a split win for TJ. I thought Kai won, and I thought Kai's cardio looked a little better. But to have it that close with TJ Brown also is a little questionable. I mean, he's exciting. I think Kai Kamaka is more of a fan favorite than a prospect. He likes to pressure. His striking's pretty good. It's just he gasses and he gets hittable. His takedown defense, I would say it's questionable because he does get taken down every fight, but it always seems to happen when he's tired. And it's not as if Danny's going to shoot anyway, so it really doesn't matter. Kai doesn't have a ton of knockouts. In fact, I don't know if he has any looking at his record. No, he does not. So he's kind of pillow fisted, which is probably why he's always in all these wars. If he had any sort of power, maybe he didn't have to go the whole distance. So, I mean, he's just a fun guy to watch. He's durable. It's always a bar burner. It's just a really fun guy to watch fight. You can say the same about his opponent in Chavez. You look at Danny's UFC career, it's a little up and down too, even though short. They are a little up and down. He came in and absolutely put the work in his very first fight. Who did he take out? Well, it was TJ Brown, common opponent. Yeah, he came in, and I want to say he was an underdog against TJ Brown, and came in. His takedown defense looked phenomenal. I think it's like 70 or 80% overall, honestly, in his career. His striking looks great. Predominantly a boxer, not a lot of kicks. He just has really fast hands. Decent power. It's opposite of Kai. He has a lot of knockouts actually on his career. And then he also fights better going forward. So it's going to be interesting to see who the one pressuring is, because the other person is going to be a little uncomfortable backing up. But he slows down a little too. But Kai gasses and Danny slows. So those are two different aspects of the fight game. So I mean, at this instance, when it was Danny plus money, I was all over it. Now the line is damn near a pick 'em. So, gosh, it's gonna be a great fight. Part of me, I was gonna say just take the over so you don't have to choose a side, but I've seen Kai knocked out before because of his fatigue, so I don't really want to trust that. Eesh. And Kai is coming in on short notice as well, I believe. So I really don't trust that. So I am going to have to take Danny. And honestly, I'd bet Danny too. I hope money comes back in on Kai to where we can get a plus money. Even if it's even money, I'll probably take Danny and place a bet. Otherwise, right now, I'm probably staying away. But if that line moves and you get more value on Danny, I'll definitely pull the trigger because I'm going to pick him and I'll bet him in that instance. And we have the next fight of the night. This is just a fight where they're really, really trying to push somebody. We have the Ultimate Fighter alum Chris Gruschmacher going up against Rafa Garcia. We have Rafa coming in at, I had it at minus 285. I checked this morning. He was like minus 315. The line is just getting wider and wider. And then we had Chris Gruschmacher come back on him is around like plus 220. Over 2.5 is minus 155. Under 2.5 is plus 125. We'll start with our boy Rafa, 12-1. This dude's good. Usually I try to fade people from Combate. However, I mean, he came in his very, very first fight. He took it on very short notice. So it was like under a week's notice against Nasrat Hakparas. And Nasrat's a top 15 guy. So that was kind of ballsy to come in and do. He's predominantly a jiu-jitsu guy. Most of his wins are by decision. He has pretty good wrestling. He's a black belt. He's really good on the ground. He's younger and is only developing on the feet. And honestly, he took the fight on short notice, and Nasrat has really good takedown defense. He kind of struggled to get it to the ground. So there came a point in the fight where he said, screw it. I'm just going to wrestle. I'm just going to box the whole time. And he looked good. He held his own. Did he get outboxed by Nasrat? Absolutely. Was every single round close and competitive? Absolutely. So he really did. He's one of these guys that actually looked better in a loss, just under the conditions, and you can kind of give him a pass considering. Chris Grutzmatzer gets 0-0 passes. He's not good. He's one of these guys that are just, they win by being durable. I can't say he's a good wrestler. I can't say he's a good striker. I can't say he's good on the ground. I really don't know. He's just good at being tough. Like that's his whole gimmick. He just goes forward, doesn't stop coming, but he doesn't really have any good wins. I mean, in the UFC itself, he beat Joe Lozon, where he retired, and that is about it. I mean, he beat Abner in the Ultimate Fighter finale, if you want to count that. But if you're not counting that, he only has one UFC win, and his losses are pretty rough here. I mean, he got knocked out by Chad Skelly. He got choked up by Chad Skelly. He got choked up by Davi Ramos. He got knocked out by Alexander Hernandez. Like, he's going out here and getting embarrassed and finished. Because they're exposing him. Once there's levels to this, and once he gets out of that tough house and he gets off the regional scene and he's fighting legit UFC competition, he's going out there and getting starched. So looking here, I mean, he has good, his ground and pound's okay, and his cardio's okay. Those are his weapons. So I don't think he's going to want to play on the ground too much with Garcia being a black belt. If he does, he'll probably get tapped out again. I don't think he wants to just stay striking on the feet because he'll probably get pieced up again. So I really don't know what Chris's game plan is, nor do I care because I'm not betting him. The pick is 110% Rafa. I was looking at the under 2.5. It is plus money. So what I would do is I would either parlay Rafa, and I would do it quickly because his value is just diminishing. Once it hits the 300s, I stop like really caring. So you could either parlay him ASAP, or honestly, you can take a shot on the under. Plus money at the under, as I'm looking at it, is not bad considering how Chris fights. So pick Rafa, and honestly, you can parlay, or I think I'm going to take a shot on the under. I'm just looking at it now. I'm going to pull the trigger as soon as I'm done with the podcast. We'll go to the next fight of the night. This is, again, another one where they're just trying to figure out what direction to go with. We have Melsik. Oh, gosh, don't make me say the name. Melsik Baghdasaryan up against Colin Anglin. We have Melsik at a minus 145 favorite, Colin at a plus 115 dog value. Over 2.5 is minus 162. Under 2.5 is plus 132. We'll start with who the UFC wants to push, and Melsik. And he's a fun guy to watch. That's why the UFC wants to push him. You look at his record, he's only 5-1, but don't let that fool you. He has a ton of kickboxing experience. He has some boxing experience. He has some Muay Thai experience. Like, this dude has been around the ringer. He's not like brand new to the game. He just doesn't have a lot of pro MMA fights. And the ones he does, in all honesty, he probably needs a little more time in, because you're looking at his Contender Series win was a decision, and we'll get to that because when you look at the rest of his wins, I mean, he won by knockout in 7 seconds, won by knockout in 9 seconds, 32 seconds, 14 seconds. Like, there was some stat about his combined ring time, and it was like around like it's not good. But then he actually fought. I mean, these guys are terrible. I mean, you look at it, they're 0-0, they're 3-5, 0-0, 4-3, and then he gets a Contender Series fight. And what the guy survives the first round. So then you're like, all right, good. We get to see what his cardio looks like. It doesn't look good. He came out and he lost the second, and then he just had a gut check and pulled out the third. Everyone talks about how he's in the training with the Shabazian brothers, and he fights like them. He comes out like a bat out of hell, getting all these first round finishes. But if you're able to withstand the first round, you can break them a little bit. I know Edmund looked a little better against Jack Hermanson, and Jack is no joke. Like, Jack is a top 4 guy, so all the respect in the world to Edmund. But at the same time, I mean, Melsik is on the same trajectory as Edmund. It's the exact same thing. Really good striking, loves to pressure. He just comes at you. Has a lot of power, clearly. His takedown defense was questionable, but again, I think that was more or less from him just being tired. And then his cardio, yes, it's poor. It is not good at all. So then you got to go on the flip side. Well, is his opponent going to be someone that's able to withstand the just Vitor Belfort flurry to start the fight? And the answer is I don't know, because it's contender series versus contender series. And as much as you want to fade these Dana White guys, when they fight each other, it's impossible to fade. Watching the tape on Colin, I wouldn't say he's a great wrestler. He's someone that likes these body locks to take you down. Melsik's pretty strong, so I'm not certain that's the way to take him down. It's probably better to just kind of shoot a blast double or catch him off guard, Ronnie Lawrence style. He can try the body lock. It'll be interesting to see if that works. The key for him is to make it out that first round. Then he can wear on him. Then he can possibly finish him in the third or late second. The problem is Colin's power is okay, but he's hittable, and that's the last thing you want to be against Melsik, who's just coming in to kill you in the first 30 seconds. Colin does have a tendency to back up, which is, again, Melsik wants to pressure you, so that's another advantage for Melsik. But Colin's cardio is okay; it checked out. So if this thing, all Melsik has to do is win 2 rounds. If he can have 2-round cardio, Colin, I don't think Colin has enough power or good enough wrestling to 10-8 him. So all Melsik has to do is win the first 10 minutes of the fight. Otherwise, I mean, I'm looking at Colin's record. I mean, he's beating better guys, 4-1, 5-1, 6-1. He's kind of paying his dues, in all honesty. Record-wise, you would say he might even be the favorite. But it's just the hype around Melsik, and the UFC wants to push this guy. They just know how it worked with Edmund, so they don't want to do it again. So they're just really testing him to see. So the pick will be Melsik, in all honesty, just because of that. For that blitz is crazy to start, and Colin does back up and is kind of a slow starter. The over 2.5, I had it -1. So I had it at over 2.5 -162, under 2.5 +132. I want to say it was wrong and it was flipped and it was supposed to be 1.5. Either way, the pick is Melsik. The bet, I got to take a look at that under, because some people I've seen on more than one site where they put 2.5 and other ones are 1.5. So you have to check your particular book. If your book is showing 2.5 at plus money, jump on it ASAP. If it's showing 1.5, I wouldn't parlay Melsik, in all honesty. So at that point, I would just kind of bet him straight up and eat the chalk, because plus 115 isn't enough value with Colin. So the pick is Melsik. The bet is going to be the under, or Melsik straight up, but I would just pass, in all honesty. But if that under is showing 2.5 plus money, you jump on it ASAP. Because either way, this thing isn't going the distance. All right. Then next fight of the night is one that I made a huge mistake on. We have Yanan Wu at plus 175. I want to say she's as high as plus 190 now. Nico Montano at -225. We have the over 2.5 at -310, under 2.5 at plus 240. We'll start with Wu. I mean, she's a girl that used to fight at flyweight. And that's where her best days were. She's not looking the greatest at 135. I know that she missed weight a few times at flyweight, so UFC made her go up to 35. But losses to Jocelyn Edwards and Mizaki Inoue, sorry. They don't look the best, in all honesty. Her win against Lauren Mueller, who's not even in the promotion anymore, doesn't look the best. She has a loss to Gina Mazzani. Doesn't look the best. Yana took her out. I mean, it's just not. She looks good. It sounds weird. And you look at her record and you watch her fight and you remember her looking bad. When you watch the fight tape, she doesn't look as bad as your memory is. Her striking looks okay. She's very hittable. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to take much to hit her. she kind of pressures, but then if you tap her once, she backs up. She's just not very like physically strong, so she can't really hang at 135. That's her issue. But she struggles to make the weight at 125, so she's just kind of caught where she's either going to get overpowered or she's going to be sucked out and have trouble making the weight. Um, Her wrestling's weird, man. She always gets the takedown and then gets reversed in like the matter of milliseconds. Like it's just odd. She's just a weird girl. Like I think she could be good. I think she has potential. How old is she? I don't think she's super old. How old is she? She's 25, and that must be why it looks like that. Like you see it, it's there. I think she came in a little too early. In all honesty, if you can get her over to a different gym, and or I mean, if she either would have taken her time or she gets over to a different gym, she could be good. I see it. The mechanics are there. It just gets a little sloppy and wild. And I didn't realize she was only 25 after being in the UFC since 2017. That's why. That it's just she just needs to mature a little bit. Nico Montano is as matured as they come because this girl she's like 32 but only has like 5 pro fights. She is how many does she have? She has 7 pro fights. She's 4-3, probably the worst champ in UFC history. I mean, she made the 125 weight cut for the Ultimate Fighter, did a good job doing it. And then like hasn't made the weight since. She went up to 135 and had a decent showing against Juliana Pena, especially because of the thing that haunts Nico Montano, which is just fight cancellations. I mean, I don't even want to look at her record because all you see here are canceled bout, canceled bout, canceled bout, canceled bout, canceled bout, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 canceled bouts. Like that's all that happens. So first and foremost, we don't even know if this fight is gonna happen because all she does is get canceled bouts. I mean, look at the breaks in between. She fought this is 2021. So her last fight was in 2019, so 2 years ago against Juliana Pena. Before that, she beat Roxanne Modafferi, and that was 2 years ago. Before that, that was the Ultimate Fighter finale. And then obviously all the fights in the house. And then Julia Avila, that's when she was a little more consistent. So it's just she fights every 2 years. So it's really hard to know what she's like, if she's been developing. She's at Jackson's, which I don't really like. That thing is falling apart. Her wrestling's good. Her striking's good. She's nothing to write home about, in all honesty. She's just decent everywhere. She has no holes, don't get me wrong. She's not bad by any means. And even her losses, I mean, Pena's not a bad loss. Julia Avila is not a bad loss. I don't know who Pam Surison is, but it was only her second fight. This name sounds familiar. But it was only her second pro fight, and it was a split decision. So it's not like she has bad losses by any means, and it's not like she's bad anywhere in the fight. I don't like that time off so much. But we saw it last week with TJ. He had 2 years off. We saw it the week before with Miesha Tate. She had 4 years off. Like ring rust is a thing, but when you have when you're good, it doesn't seem to matter. Or it's all about who you're fighting. I mean, TJ was impressive, even though he probably lost, but I'd have bet on TJ. We'll just leave that alone. When you look at TJ's fight, I mean, that's an assumption, but when you have Marion Renault on a retirement fighting Miesha Tate, like when you have Yanan Wu fighting Montano, you have to feed them a winnable fight when they're coming off a long layoff, and that's what they did here. So I'm done rambling. The pick is going to be Nico. Bet is going to be Nico. The line's shooting up on Nico, so if you're going to do it, you got to do it now. She's a great parlay piece. But I would jump on it now because that line's getting a little out of control for someone that hasn't fought in 2 years, and I really messed up not jumping on it earlier. So pick Nico, bet Nico ASAP. All right. Next fight of the night is one that I need to just stay the hell away from. We have Brian Barbarina going up against Jason Witt. Witt's a plus 205 dog. Barbarina is a minus 265 favorite. The over 2.5 is plus 120. Under 2.5 is minus 150. Let's start with Witt. Witt is extremely hittable. Witt has okay jiu-jitsu, I guess, like top game wrestling jiu-jitsu. He has pretty decent wrestling. I'll give him that. But if you touch him, he backs up. His cardio isn't the greatest. And we talked about Malcolm Gordon last week or the week before. It was the week before. This is the only guy that competes with Malcolm Gordon for worst chin in the UFC. Like in general. I mean, this dude, let's look at his record. He's 16-7. How many times has he been knocked out in those 7 losses? 1, 2, 3, 4. He got choked out. 5. All right. So he has 7 losses, 5 by knockout, 2 by submission, which honestly could have been club and subs. I didn't see the fight. But moral of the story is if you touch this guy, he goes out. I mean, even his last fight against Matthew Selmelsberger, Matt's not known as a knockout artist, and he knocked him out with a jab. So in 16 seconds. So it's very, very questionable. I mean, these knockouts are not even lasting long. They're in the early rounds. He's not good. I really don't think he's UFC caliber. Like his wrestling's okay, but it's not phenomenal. His jiu-jitsu isn't phenomenal, and he doesn't have a chin. So I don't really know why he's in the UFC. I know he trains over at Gloria MMA. So everyone was thinking in James Krause, we trust. I mean, he did get him a win with Cole Williams. But Cole Williams is on his way out and wasn't too great either. The only positive is that, again, he is at Glory MMA, and James Krause doesn't sugarcoat anything, and he makes him wrestle. He tells him not to strike. You're never going to strike again. You better go out there and wrestle ASAP because you're going to get knocked out. And, you know, Jason Witt, knowing he has a bad chin is a good thing for him. I mean, we'll go over to the flip side, and this is why this fight gets a little weird. Is because Bryan Barbarina should win. I actually think he's not bad. I think he's pretty good, especially strength of schedule. That's the thing. You see 15-7, you're like, oh, this guy is just okay. You have to look at who he's fighting. His 7 losses, he lost to Randy Brown, who's top 15, Vicente Luque, top 5, Leon Edwards, top 2, Colby Covington, top 2, and then we're going all the way back to 2015 with his losses. So, I mean, he's losing to ranked opponents and like people that are about to fight for titles. So there's not really a lot of shame in that. The problem with Bryan, I mean, he has good striking. His jiu-jitsu is okay. His wrestling's a little shaky. But again, he's fighting top level guys, so it's hard to say, but it's interesting. Even if he does get taken down, he has a tendency to get back up. His cardio checks out and he likes to pressure. So everything about this fight says Bryan should go in and steamroll him, and that's why he's a minus 265 favorite. But you have to do your research. And Bryan is coming off of some serious injuries to where he almost died. He had like some internal bleeding, and his wife made him go to the hospital. And if he didn't go to the hospital, they told him he would have died. Like he's had a whole bunch of back issues prior to. And you got to look at the Anthony Ivy fight. Like he wasn't supposed to fight. I know he was just going to the gym just to lose some weight because he put on a little weight, and then they talked him into getting another fight. The scariest thing I heard, though, there are certain rules I have. Shout out to the Die Hard MMA podcast where he says he doesn't bet on 40-year-old fighters. Clint, I agree with you. I don't like doing that. That's a good rule. Betting on people that say they have baby fever, that's a good rule. The other thing you don't bet on are retiring fighters. What Barbarina said in a recent interview scared me. He literally said, I don't know if I should be fighting. I'm just going to fight this weekend and see. So the good news is he thinks very, very little of Witt. And he thinks he's going to run through him and be able to decide if he's going to continue to fight or not. The bad news is his heart's not in it. His mind's not in it. I feel like he's here to get a payday and figure out if he's ever going to get another one from the UFC. So it's nice that he thinks he's going to run through it. The confidence is good, but not knowing if we're going to continue to fight and not being mentally there is a red flag. I can't parlay. I don't know if I'm going to keep fighting at minus 265. I don't want to eat chalk on someone who doesn't know if they want to keep fighting at minus 265. And if you're going to break someone, the easiest way to break them is through wrestling. So the pick is going to be Barbarina because he should kill him. The bet stay the hell away. If you are feeling ballsy and you want to put it on the table, you got that big dick energy, you can place a bet on Witt if you want, just on the off chance. And I'd even go crazier and say he's not going to finish him. Even if he breaks him, he's not good enough to finish Barbarina. So if you want to take Witt by decision and really get wild and get some plus money, go for it. Otherwise, don't go anywhere. This is the biggest stay away on the entire card. All right. And then next fight of the night is another one we should probably stay away from. We have Zaruk Adashev going up against Ryan Benoit. We have Benoit at a minus 135 favorite. Zaruk come back at plus 105. We talked about how Wu probably is in the UFC a little too early. I feel the exact way about Zaruk. The over, by the way, is 2.5 at minus 202. Under 2.5 plus 162. Zaruk's 3-3, so if that doesn't scream too early, I don't know what does. He has a kickboxing background. He's pretty accomplished on that realm. But in regards to the UFC or just MMA in general, he fought over in Bellator. He took an L in Ring of Combat, came over to Bellator, got 3 wins in a row, and then the UFC picks him up because of a short notice time frame. He comes in short notice, makes weight, goes up against Tyson Nam and gets starched in 30 seconds, which Tyson Nam's not good. The one thing he has is power. So that's kind of, interesting. I think it just kind of happens. You kind of give him a small pass just because he took the fight on such short notice. Then he has the actual fight. They give him Sue Maderji, and Sue is good. Sue is the guy that he's starting to turn into the guy that no one wants to fight because he's that good but doesn't have a name. He's about to have himself like a Leon Edwards issue. So, Sue's good. He lasted all 15 minutes, so he's pretty durable. I think Tyson Nam starched him out in 30 minutes or 30 seconds. And his other loss, he got choked out in the first round. So you're really confused on what to think of this guy. I don't know what to do with him. I know he has good striking. I know he works hard on his wrestling because he does not have a ground game. The path to victory should be taking him down and tapping him out with ease. But he has good cardio. He does have a tendency to back up, but he's fine backing up. He has pretty high striking credentials. He's fine that way. So yeah, you want to take him down and you want to tap him out. Ryan Benoit just recently got his purple belt or brown belt in jiu-jitsu. So you would think he would want to show that off and utilize that. Ryan Benoit did wrestle in high school. He's pretty good in high school. I think he's a state champ. The problem with Benoit is he's one of these guys that has wrestling in his back pocket, but he grows tired doing it, so he just doesn't. On the feet, he's okay. He's more or less boxing. He doesn't really throw any kicks or anything. He just really relies on his hand speed and his power. He hits pretty hard. I'll give him that. He has knockouts over Sergio Pettis. He was getting his ass kicked. Don't get me wrong. I love Sergio. Sergio was giving him the business, and then he caught him. The dude hits hard. He has a split decision loss to the current champ, Brandon Moreno. He has good wins and good losses. He's fighting the top of the world. Sergio Pettis and Brandon Moreno are both champions in their promotions currently. So, those aren't bad losses. Tim Elliott broke him. That's Benoit's problem. One, he's huge for 125. This fight got canceled previously because he got hospitalized making the weight cut. Secondly, he gasses. He doesn't slow. He gasses trying to make this weight. So he's kind of like he has to win the first two, or he has to finish you early there. Overall, he can wrestle, he can box, and he has a good ground game. So overall, he's the complete MMA fighter, and I will definitely pick Benoit just because he's not one-dimensional. Problem is the way he fights. He's a little lower volume. He does have a reach advantage here, which would be nice for him, but I don't trust him coming out here and wrestling. And if he tries to strike with the striker, that's probably not a good game plan. If it touches the ground, I just don't know how. The line's not terrible. I would take the shot on Zaruk in all honesty, but the line for him, there's not enough value at plus 105. I've seen it go up to plus 110, but that's still not enough. So the pick is going to be Benoit. The bet would be Benoit, but don't parlay him and don't. So you would just have to bet him straight up, but I'd probably just stay away in all honesty. All right. And then the next fight of the night, They tried to save. They have Nicholas Stolze at minus 200 coming up against very, very late replacement, few days replacement, Jared Gordon. Come back on him is plus 170. The totals aren't out yet. So we'll start with Stolze. Good striking. His cardio seems to check out. He can be backed up a little, but he's comfortable there, he looks like, because he's just such a good striker. His volume, I wish he would throw a little more, but I mean, he does what he can. His wrestling, he's working on. His jiu-jitsu, he's working on. Like, you see this guy getting better and better. He's 28. So you kind of see him developing. I'm interested to see when he actually started fighting. Let's see here. I mean, overall, I really don't have any complaints about him. I know his very first fight was against Ramazan Ameev in the UFC, which is a tough out. And he's one of these guys, again, he looked fine in a loss. He impressed. But at the same time, you just, the UFC doesn't really know what to do with him. I really don't know what to think about him either. You see the potential. He's just, they really just wanted to test him with Laziz and kind of figure out which one they were going to push between the two. But then Laziz went out, and now we have Jared Gordon. So now all of a sudden he's a minus 200 favorite. I generally wouldn't agree with that line in all honesty. However, Jared Gordon is someone notorious for missing weight. Excuse me. He does not make 170 easy because he is, I don't know how he makes the weight to begin with. So I am a little concerned that he's taken this fight on a few days' notice. I didn't see anything about it being a catch weight at all. So I don't know if he's going to drain himself trying to do that. He's also on a 2-fight skid. So 3 fights, he could get cut. So I don't know why he's taking this like this. Maybe he knows something I don't know. It's a little risky. I mean, Gordon is pretty good striking. He's fine on the ground, in all honesty. He's really durable. He doesn't really get finished. I think he got knocked out one time. Yeah, Bruno Oliveira knocked him out, but that was at middleweight. That wasn't at welterweight. So, I mean, he's someone that can hold his own on the ground. He hits really fucking hard. But he just, I don't know. I don't know what to do with this fight. It's been a few days. I really didn't do any tape study. I don't agree with the line, but I don't like him coming in on a few days' notice. So, oh gosh, this is, I take it back. This might be the biggest stay away on the card. This and Brian don't come out with a 10-inch pole. So, eesh, the pick will be Stolze. The bet, you know what? Stolze is also someone that hasn't been finished. So the bet is going to be the over whenever that line comes out. I just hope it's not steamed to like minus 300 or something like that. As long as you get a good line with the over, I definitely take that. That's what I would take. I would actually feel very, very confident with the over. Even if it's 2.5, I could care less. These guys are durable. So the pick will be the over, whatever it is. I don't even know what it is. Just get me out of this situation. Pick Stolze, bet the over. Or put your balls on the table and take Gordon if you want. But no, I'd definitely take the over. All right, next fight of the night is another one that I kind of want to stay away from. It's just the higher they go, the harder these are getting. We have Cheyenne Bays going up against Gloria de Paola. We'll start with Cheyenne because she is the currently minus 190 favorite. Come back on Gloria plus 150. Over 2.5 is minus 337. Under 2.5 is plus 267. So stay away from these overs because the over is steamed, so no value. The under isn't going to happen. I'll tell you right now, Cheyenne Bays has good striking. People were talking about her having decent wrestling. I didn't see it. I saw a pretty strong girl that was overpowering things, but in regards to technique with the wrestling, I personally didn't see it. And I don't think she wants to wrestle. She wants to strike. And I mean, she's good at it. She doesn't have a ton of power. Like you see, you're not seeing a lot of knockouts here or anything like that. Mostly decisions. You see the strikes when she hits. She hits hard. She just doesn't have that like knockout power. She does like the pressure. Her hands are super fast. That is something I noticed. They're really fast. It loves to throw straight punches, which I love. I hate when people come in throwing loopy nonsense. Straight punches right down the pipe. Cardio checks out. And she will push you up against the cage. She won't take you down, but she'll put you up against the cage and dirty box a little bit. So a lot to like. I mean, she can get grapple fucked a little bit. That part's a little concerning. But the Paola is not going to do that to her because the Paola is even worse in the grappling department. In all honesty, if you get taken down at ease by Jinyu Frey, who is a really an atom weight, it's a little concerning. Gloria Paola also has good striking. Her wrestling, again, is very suspect, just like Cheyenne. They basically have the same record, both off Contender Series. The UFC is deciding which hot girl they're pushing. That's really what it comes down to. They're going to push one like Paige Van Zandt. The other one is not going to get the boot, but they're going to get like the Rachel Ostrovich treatment. So we're really trying to figure out which route they're going with which one. They fight the same way. Paola does have a reach advantage, very minimal. And her jujitsu, she throws stuff up there when she's on the ground. Nothing sticking, but she'll throw it up there. And she has a few knockouts, but her level of competition is, gosh, the girls she's knocking out are 3-2 and 1-1, and doesn't even count 0-3. So I don't, you talk about Cheyenne, and she's married to JP, who's in the UFC. Paola, she's dating Myro Silva, who's in the UFC. So they're both just very, very MMA oriented, 24/7. They're both just good strikers that can get grapple fucked. So at this juncture, I would pick Baze just because she has the faster hands. And everything comes straight down the pipe, which I like a lot. Paola is a Muay Thai specialist, more or less. So when they get into those clinch situations, she could excel there. Plus 150 is what's getting me. That might be enough value for me. I don't feel comfortable betting Gloria. I was on the Baze train until she started hitting minus 190. She's probably going to be minus 200 come fight time. I think that's too much chalk. So I think I'm going to have no choice but to do dog or pass. So the pick is going to be Cheyenne. The bet, I'm probably not going to place one, but if I do, it'd be dog or pass and Gloria. All right. And then we're down to the co-main event. It's interesting to say that these two men are in a co-main event, but let's just go for it. We have Kang at minus 140. Coming up against Ronnie Yaya at plus 110. Over 2.5 is minus 150. Under 2.5 at plus 120. We'll start with Kang. He's one of these guys that had to take a leave of absence due to being in the military. So that excuses one of his long layoffs. Other ones are just injury related and COVID related. He's another one of these guys that seem to take some just time off. Gosh, he's been in the UFC forever. He's been in the UFC since, gosh, wow, I didn't even realize it was that long, since 2013. Good lord. So Kang, I mean, his wrestling's okay, his jiu-jitsu's okay, his striking's not that great, but he'll throw his jab out there because he has a long reach, and his cardio's okay. This guy's the definition of a generalist. He does nothing extremely well. He's not terrible at any aspect. He's just an okay fighter, and his record shows it. In all honesty, he beats the scrubs. He loses to anyone halfway decent. Gosh, what is he? He's 17-8. Everything checks out. He's an okay fighter. I really don't have much to say. He's not good anywhere, but he's not bad anywhere. It's just he's there. Ronnie Yaya, his striking's not good. His cardio, god awful. Throws a lot of looping shots, but I don't think he's even really trying to hit you. He honestly is just throwing looping shots to get your attention, get you to back up to where he can pressure you. And when he gets close enough, he's going to try to take you down. He doesn't have the greatest takedown accuracy. It's only like 30%, 25% or something like that. But when he gets you down, this dude is a hammer on top. This dude probably has the best BJJ in the division. 35. Yeah, probably the best at 135. This dude is on top. This dude on top of you is scary. You don't want that. You don't need that. That's his path to victory. I mean, look at his wins: arm triangle, heel hook, arm triangle, Kimura. They're all submissions. So if this dude is on top of you, you are in a world of trouble. The thing is he able to get him there? I know Kang has only been submitted once in his career, but the other guys he's fighting don't have the jiu-jitsu on the level of Ronnie Yaya. So it's comparing apples to oranges. So if Yaya had a little more value than plus 110, I would definitely say go for it. But I don't know if I can bet Kang. And I look at the over-under, not enough value there either. So the pick is gonna be Kang. The bet, I just have to go dog or pass. The bet would be Yaya at that point, but another one where I probably don't really want to touch. This is a tough card. Most of my bets are at the beginning, and then it kind of falls off here. And that, speaking of falling off, that takes us to our main event in the evening. We have Sean Strickland at minus 225, Uriah Hall at plus 175, over 3.5 minus 115. Under 3.5 minus 115. We'll start with Strickland. He's good. I really don't like the guy personally. Something about him just rubs me the wrong way. He's 23-3. And he's another one of these guys where his losses were to Alessio Zaleski is good. Kamaru Usman, he's decent, the current champ. And Santiago Ponzinibbio, really, really good. So those are not bad losses to have whatsoever. He has some knockout wins, predominantly fights on the feet. I actually don't like the way he pressures a lot. He has good cardio, good striking, a lot of volume. He throws a lot of volume at you, which I love. The things and he has underrated ground game. People in the gym will tell you he can tap you out. Like, he's good on the ground. His wrestling is at like 60% accuracy in the UFC. Like, he's a pretty good all-around fighter. He's really good. Whether I like him or not, I will give the devil his due. He's a good fighter. The thing I don't like is the way he fights on the feet with how low his hands are. And he walks, when he pressures you with his chin up. I don't like that whatsoever. I know it's working for him at middleweight. It worked for him at welterweight. But I mean, one of his losses, Kamaru wasn't knocking anyone out at that point. Santiago, I mean, he survived. And then Zaleski did knock him out with a spinning heel hook, with a spinning back kick. I mean, we all know that that's Uriah's favorite move is a spinning back kick. I think people are looking too far into that. But I don't like the way he walks with his chin up. When he pressures, that chin being up and low hands, I do not like that against anyone at middleweight. He got away with it at welterweight, but at middleweight, he's fighting Brendan Allen, doesn't have a ton of power. Jack Marshman is not in the promotion any longer. Christoph Jocko doesn't have a lot of power. You can get away with it then, but it is going to catch him. How old is he? He's 30, so he's still at a good age. It's going to catch him eventually. I just don't know if Hall's the one to do it. Hall has the power to do it, but his volume is so low. Hall doesn't throw. He has really good striking when he decides to throw. He has really great power when he decides to throw. I mean, he knocked out people like Gegard Mousasi. That's a great win. Anderson Silva. But this little run he's on right now is a little suspect. He beat a 45-year-old. He beat a 36-year-old where his leg just broke. He beat someone that's not in the promotion. He beat someone that's not in the promotion. So I don't know, dude. I mean, even his losses, Paulo Costa finished him, Mousasi finished him, Derek Brunson finished him. Let's not act like he can't get knocked out. I mean, granted, they're all good. I mean, those are all good fighters. I mean, his losses in general are the same thing. Great fighters. Chris Weidman knocked him out, but great fighter. Cassis Philippou was decent at that point in time. Kevin Gastelum, great fighter. John Howard was good at that point in time. It was a welterweight, though. That's interesting. Rafael Natal was a good fighter at that point in time. Robert Whittaker, former champ. Brunson, number 3. Mousasi, one of the best in the world. Paulo Costa, overrated, but top 5 currently in the division. So he only has losses to top 5, top 10 guys. He slows during his fights. I don't like that, especially against someone with the volume of Strickland. So I either see it being Hall early or Strickland late. That's why I don't want to touch this over under at 3.5, and especially it being minus 115. It's just a pick 'em with the over under. So it forces you to pick a fighter. I will pick Sean Strickland. As far as a bet, Geesh, it's scary parlaying Strickland, but I don't think I have a choice. I'll probably end up parlaying Strickland, but if that parlay is about to hit, I 110% am going to hedge with Hall by knockout because that is the way he walks with his hands down and his chin up frightens me. So in honesty, I'm going to pick Strickland. I'm going to put Strickland in a parlay, and if that parlay is still alive, I am going to hedge with Paul. That's the way to play it. So that was UFC Vegas 133. I'm looking forward to this card. That's a lot. I'm not looking forward to this card, but I'm looking forward to the bets and trying to find some sort of excitement here. The Bellator fight is definitely the one to watch, and I think the UFC just they knew that they were going to have some tough competition and just kind of did a throwaway card. They have a pay-per-view the next week, so usually the ones before the pay-per-views or after the pay-per-views look like this. So it was expected, but hey, it's a free card. We're all gambling degenerates, and we're all going to sit down and watch regardless. Dana, you got me. So I appreciate it, and let's keep winning, baby.